Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Clémence, aka Cinevlogs, and today I'm going to present to you my favorite book series of all time. That is the book series I gave 5 stars to as a whole, and I really hope you will enjoy this video. The first book series is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I really liked her books. Yes, I know some people don't really like this trilogy and prefer Six of Crows, but personally I absolutely loved it. I think I read all these books like in 1 week and I just could not put them down. They were so good. I really like the whole universe and like the characters. I really like Elena, even though I don't like her as much in the TV show, for example. What I really liked about the TV show was season 1, even though season 2 wasn't as great. But for the books, what I really liked is that you have a lot more details about the characters, like their little backstory, how they met each other. You have so much more tension between them. And yeah, I just love the whole universe, the magic, and personally, I really liked their story between Elena and the Duckling. I think it was really great, and yeah, I think this whole series I gave 5 stars to every single book of this series. Personally, I'd say the best book out of all the 3 would be Siege and Storm, so the second book in the series. First of all, I love the cover, it is beautiful. And yeah, I think it was the most interesting one, and you really get to see Elena's power develop in this one, which I really like. But also you had a new character that was introduced I would say he was one of my favorites of the whole series. So if you have read this series, and especially the second book, you might know which character I'm talking about. But yeah, I really like the series as a whole. It was really great. I would totally recommend reading it. So yeah, that was the first one. Then we have another of my favorite series, which is the Folk of the Air series, also known as the Cruel Prince series by Holly Black. I really liked it. For me, it was also a series I could not put down once I read it. I read it in maybe a week and a half, I think. And yeah, I really liked it. I read it twice because I couldn't stop thinking about the characters in this book. It was awesome. And yeah, what I really liked about this was Jude, the main character, because she's a really badass girl, and yeah, she was different from other characters in fantasy books, which I really liked. She was not waiting to be saved, she was looking out for herself, and she was really trying to be the best she can be at everything, and I really liked her. If some of you want to read this series just because they heard that there was romance in it, I must warn you, it is not really a romance book. Like, the romance is the subplot, if not subplot in the series. It's like just a few pages out of 3 books, so it was more political and plot driven. So you have more politics and people plotting against the crown, and Jude fighting for her life than romance. Like, the romance is just like really minimal out of 3 books. So if you want to read these books just for the romance, I would not recommend it. However, if you don't mind, it's just a few pages in it, I would totally recommend it. It is worth it. Like, the few crumbs of romance that you get in it are totally worth the wait. And so yeah, I would totally recommend it if you just want only crumbs of romance, like I said. And if you prefer fantasy with just more plot and politics, I would totally recommend this series. So yeah, that was the second one. Then we have the Caraval series by Stephanie Garber. I read it this year. I really liked it. It was really nice, and yeah, I think I just once again couldn't put the book down. I feel like I'm repeating myself saying that, but it was so great. I would say the first book is not necessarily the best one. I personally preferred Legendary, which is the second book in the series. Um, but yeah, we're totally recommending these. And unlike the Folk of the Air trilogy that I presented right before, you have a lot more romance in it. Even though it's not the main plot once again, but you have a little bit more of it. So I would totally recommend reading this series if you want a bit more romance. But once again, the plot is like the main part of the story, and discovering who is the master of Caraval. So yeah, I would totally recommend these series. I absolutely love Stephanie Garber. She's one of my favorite authors for sure. And yeah, I would totally recommend reading this series. How could I talk about Caraval without talking about sequel series, also by Stephanie Garber, Once Upon a Broken Heart? I have mentioned this in my previous video that this is my absolute favorite series. Um, yeah, absolutely love it. And if you want to get into fantasy, I would absolutely recommend reading this series, as it is light read. You don't have that much world building, and you have romance in it, so it's really nice. I really love it. You can also tell that I absolutely love this series because I have two editions of the same book. I am waiting to have also the a third one, which will be the bigger paperback format. I need the first book in the big paperback format so that I would match the second book in the series, The Ballad of Never After, which I absolutely love. Out of the two, I think it's my favorite. But yeah, I need a bigger paperback to match this one. Also, I cannot wait to have the third book in the series, A Curse for True Love, that is coming out in October, I think. And yeah, so really, if you want to get into fantasy, I would totally recommend reading this series. But yeah, absolutely love the second book. It was amazing. I loved the first book as well. I read it in what, like a day maybe, and the second book in maybe 2 days. But yeah, the second book I was saying was my favorite because it was not just concentrated on Evangeline like the first book. It was more about Jax as well and the other fates. If you don't know what fates are, it's kind of difficult to explain, but I think you will have to read Caraval first to really have the explanation about all the fates, but you can definitely read this series without reading Caraval first. But like in What's Upon a Broken Heart, you are following one character who is from the Caraval series, Jax, but otherwise you have also a slight spoiler from the end of Caraval, but it's not a big one. So you can definitely read Once Upon a Broken Heart before reading Caraval. You don't even have to read Caraval if you don't want to. You can totally follow this story without it. I actually read Once Upon a Broken Heart before reading Caraval, so it is really doable. And yeah, I would totally recommend reading this series. It's my absolute favorite, so if I have to recommend you one out of all of the series I'm presenting today, it is that one. Then we have the Harry Potter books that I have right here in the box set. I absolutely love these books. It took me a while to read them, however, because I just was in a reading slump after reading the first 3 books in a row. And yeah, then I read the last 4 books in maybe like 2 weeks last year. I absolutely loved them. It was amazing. And before reading them last year, I just watched the movies over and over again, and I must say that I prefer the books a lot more because you have a lot more information about the characters. You also have lots and lots of chapters were cut in the movies, so you have like more stories about the characters, but also I think they are more relatable in the book, and I really like them. Personally, I liked Ron character better in the books. I don't really like him in the movies, but in the books he was really great. I also really like Ginny, because unlike in the movies, she's really this badass girl who is playing Quidditch, and she's really great. So yeah, I just really like the series, and I would totally recommend reading them if you have just watched the movies. But also, just like for Once Upon a Broken Heart before, if you want to get into fantasy, it is a children's book in that case and not YA, so you can definitely get easily into it. And yeah, I would totally recommend reading them. Then you have one of my favorite series, once again, that I read multiple times. I think I read it 4 times overall. It's the Mirror Visitor series. I unfortunately don't have the books here with me in my bookshelf because I left them at my parents', but I absolutely love this series. It's a French one, and like the others, I would totally recommend reading it, mainly because of the romance in it. It's an enemies to lovers. It's also fantasy books. You just don't have magical creatures in it, but people, like in every family, they have powers, and each family has different powers, and that was really interesting. I think it was really different from the fantasy books I usually read. But what I really like about this book is, of course, the romance, but also you can see the growth of the main character called Ophelia. maybe Ophelia in English, I don't remember. But yeah, you follow her growth throughout the books, and it is really great. You can see the development of her powers, and yeah, I just really like this book. I read it like basically every summer. I might read it again this year, and I would totally recommend you to read it as well. And the last series I want to present is Shadow Me. I really liked it, even though I didn't rate every single book 5 stars. I would totally recommend reading it just to see like Juliet's growth and her powers, but also unlike the books I presented before, this one is more dystopian than fantasy, so it is really different, but I really liked it. I would totally recommend reading it. If you want my opinion in more details about it, I filmed a video that you can find on my channel. I will link it at the end of the video if you want to watch it. And yeah, that was the last book series. So yeah, that was the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do a thumbs up. But also, if you have any series that you think I should read, please leave them in the comments down below. And don't forget to subscribe if you like my videos, and I will see you next time. Bye!